Welcome to Selfish Confidence, a place where we can connect and be real about how hard it is to be your damn self. My name is Jess, and my goal is to help you build confidence and belief in yourself to live any life path you want, even if it's unconventional. It's time to flip off societal pressures and connect with women who've also felt on the outside by their life choices. We're here to encourage you to grab the mic and speak your truth. I know it can be scary, but we're in this together. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Selfish Confidence Podcast. It's Jess here, and today is an extra fun day because I have someone coming on to talk about something that personally I don't have any experience with, and I think that that's an extra special way to bring more voices into this platform and into this world that are helping to share their story and to share what they've gone through. Because if you only hear from one voice, like what are we really going to learn, right? So I am so excited to have my very good friend Lisa White here. How you doing, Lisa?
Hi, this is amazing. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. Ever since we recorded for Lisa's podcast last week, we were hanging out there. I'm like waiting for us to
Oh,
be able to spend some time together again and to learn more about you and your story and what you've been through to get you to here. So, how about you tell us a little bit about you, Lisa,
oh, wow.
and how
Yes.
your story got started on this journey that you're on right now? I know,
Yeah.
big question.
Yeah. Big question. I mean, never expected to be talking about fertility and being on podcasts and having created a podcast myself. It's just an unexpected ride that I'm really grateful for. We had challenges getting pregnant, my husband and I. And, I always wanted to be a mom. I'm based here in Colorado, and motherhood, I thought, would just kind of come easily. Like many of us, we think we're going to get pregnant, boom, like that. Well, for many, and the statistic is 1 in 6 individuals or couples are going through fertility challenges. And it's just not something that's often talked about, but I'm grateful more people are starting to open up and talk about it. And this challenge that we went through, we had some male factor issues, and I had a couple things surgically that I had to have done too, as we were like discovering all of the challenges with, why weren't we getting pregnant, and just navigated this road, which led us to IVF and in vitro fertilization for those who maybe not are aware of that. But I embraced this ride, and I took a really different kind of approach and a different mindset that really supported me. And we had a lot of setbacks, and I'm happy to go into, details about our story, but with one healthy embryo, that's our daughter now. And what a blessing. I mean, through all that we went through, I knew that I had to be a voice and step into this space to show others what's possible, to help be a light in this dark space, and show a different approach. I always say it's like IVF done differently. And yeah, I'm here. So here to share my story and be open and be a space that is welcoming and just offer support to others who are struggling on this path.
And I love so much what you do in sharing your story and amplifying your voice in this way, because I don't think a lot of people talk about this, especially
Mm,
the statistic being 1 in 6. Like, I really don't think we're aware of this. And
yeah.
honestly, I didn't even think about hormones, fertility, or any of those things until I turned 30. And I didn't even realize that there are things like that come to play. And it's just so surprising that we're just not talking about this stuff more. So,
Oh,
Lisa,
yeah.
can you give us a little bit more into your story? Like, tell us a little bit about where it started. And then obviously now your beautiful daughter who is here, who's 6 years old. How has that journey been for you?
Yeah. I mean, when you embark on this path, it's just this whole world of unknown life, right? When you go through treatments and testing and you find out you get your AMH tested and your FSH, and there's all these like abbreviations, and IVF stands for, like I said, in vitro fertilization. And it's like this unconventional way, as you and I have connected, of calling it a baby. I mean, we needed this to try to successfully have a biological child. And my path, we had a lot of setbacks. And I always say, like, let go of a timeline as soon as you are embarking on this path. And you don't know what curveballs are going to come your way. And I'll share a few of them with you. So we began testing. I knew I had to have some polyps taken out in my uterus. And with male factor, they had to basically take my eggs, my husband's sperm, put them together. And that's how you create embryos once fertilization happens. And then once the embryos are created and we did do genetic testing to see if they're genetically healthy, then they are transferred back into you. Well, that process took, I mean, we had a whole year of waiting and surgeries. So in January of, let me think about that. In the fall of like 15, we started doing treatments, and early 16, I had, let's see, how did that go? I had my first egg retrieval. We got four, after they combined my eggs, his sperm, we got four embryos. We genetically tested them and none were healthy. None were genetically healthy. It's crushing when you take all these hormones and shots, and do the shots, the medications, and your body goes through so much. And you just have so much hope for these potential embryos, that are created, that you work so hard to create. And it was devastating. We went through another round of an egg retrieval and got three embryos, and only one of those was genetically healthy. One embryo. And we kind of didn't listen to our first doctor, left the practice in the middle of my cycle, and I'll get to that. But it was like they were recommending, oh, bank more embryos, bank more. Well, we didn't do that. We held on to the one and we just moved forward. I was about 38 at this time. So I met my husband later in life at 35. My husband was early mid 40s. So we were older. And I'm glad we did genetic testing to find out that we had a genetically healthy embryo that was holding on for us. So proceeded, had the polyp surgery, waited 3 months for healing, found out I had scar tissue that had formed. So it's like you want to optimize everything in your uterus before an embryo transfer happens. And a lot of waiting. This whole process is waiting and waiting and waiting. And to endure that, how do you endure that? Feeling whole, feeling kind of at peace, feeling lit up, living your life. Like, and it's just, that's the game. And so polyp surgery, scar tissue surgery, my doctor left the practice, got a new doctor. I had a canceled embryo transfer. They found some blood in my uterus, which halted everything. Don't know why, but again, I believe that these can be unexpected blessings. They found out that I had fibroids that had formed. So fibroids, had fibroid surgery. And that was all of 2016. January of 2017, we had our one transfer with our one embryo, not knowing boy or girl. It was the most magical day. This little dot, this little ball of light, this all your hope and dreams in this one little cluster of cells, which I still have a picture of and I see daily in my room. And it took, you endure the 2-week wait. That 2-week wait is when you're waiting to see if this embryo is implanting, growing. And then you get the call, and I got the call that I was pregnant and my numbers were really high. And it was just like, I was over the moon. And you're still not like over the finish line when that happens. There's so many stories and clients and people I work with that, where loss can happen at any point, at any time. And we were very fortunate that our embryo kept growing, and she's now like 6.5. So it's incredible. I'm so grateful. Yeah. I mean, that's our story in a nutshell. But I write all about it in the book that I never expected to write a book about our story. But hold on, baby. Hold on, baby. It's our story, and it's a soulful guide to help you navigate and ride the ups and downs of infertility and IVF that I wrote in 2019 when my daughter was not even 2 years old. And I'm so proud of it. It came out in 2020. So it just celebrated its 4-year anniversary this past Mother's Day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wild, wild.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
what a time for us to be recording this around Mother's Day too. I just think it's such a
Yeah.
beautiful time to even
Yeah.
think about this journey that you've been on,
Thank you.
and for you to hold on like that long and that hard for this one
Mm,
special little being. She
yeah.
must be obviously quite incredible.
She's, she is. I mean, of course I'm biased, right? She's very, she's just so connected. And I'll
Mm.
share some things that I was doing to build in that connection, because it's like this wondering, right? And waiting. And I was writing letters to our embryo before even knowing who they were going to, who they are. Like, I just wanted to create that connection and that energy of like, I'm holding on for you. Like, I wanted to create this warm, welcoming environment. of love. And I believe in the energetics on this path that's just not really talked about enough. And, there was so much other personal challenges I was going through at the time of going through IVF. My mom's health was also declining, and she had a long-standing respiratory condition that really, it was one of the hardest times in my life to navigate both holding on, letting go, holding on for hope that I'd be a mom, that she'd get to meet her only grandchild, holding on for hope. I was hoping, would she make it to my wedding? She did. Would she make it to, announcing that we're pregnant? She did. Would she be there for the birth? She got to experience all that. And sadly, she did pass just before my daughter's first birthday. But there's such a strong connection with her, my daughter, all of us, and hmm, it's bittersweet, It's
Mhm.
like she's with us, she's always there guiding us. And um, navigating that challenging time was like, it tested me in some big ways. And going through fertility challenges is hard enough. And then you're going through like, the loss of your own mom, like really changes you. So,
And
yeah.
how do you, this is gonna be a big question and you're gonna maybe slap me in the face, and that's okay. But like, how do you hold on to hope when everything is so hard over and over and over again?
I was holding on to myself first. And I think that's the key is holding on to you and your light and your spirit, because it requires that. Without you staying whole, connected, full, like it's really hard to navigate a path to motherhood, right?
And how
As
do you
as
do that? That's like how do you hold on to
the
yourself too?
how. Mm-hmm. It's a daily choosing. It's a daily practice. It's a mindset and an approach of I'm not going to be victim to my circumstances. I had to come to a place of acceptance. Like this was our path that was presented in front of us. And maybe if IVF didn't work, like there's always that chance, like I was going to pursue other ways to
Mm.
become a mother. We just take it one step at a time and one day at a time. So I didn't look too far ahead to the future. I did my best to stay present, to stay grounded, to have an intention and an aim that motherhood was a possibility for me. And that's what I aimed for. But I also think there's an element of detaching. I was detaching from the outcome, I was detaching from figuring out the how. So, yes, the big question of how do you do it? I've made it a way of living, I've made it a way of being, and kind of can use that mindset through really anything in life. We don't have
Right.
control of the how, but all we really do have control of is the here and now. And I did let go of the things that were out of my control, which is extremely challenging. Um, Many times, individuals on this path, very type A, want to control, control, control. I don't know if I would say I was in that category as much. I kind of moved in flow. I stepped into it. I was a little bit naive going through this, but there's a part of this path that like it will take over your life if you let it. It will consume your thoughts. It will consume everything around you and rob you of your joy and rob you of your peace if you let it. And I'm like, you know what? No, like this is one part of my life. This is one chapter of my story. This is not the whole book. And I'm like, every day I can turn a new page and I can start again. And so it's like a constant choosing and letting go. And I would say it's like, how much can you hold on and how much can you let go?
Yeah.
This
Which is
delicate balance.
which must be so hard to do when it's something you want so
Yes.
deeply. Like,
Yeah.
so the fact that you could do that and detach from the outcome and stay in the present moment, I'm just like in awe of your strength because that
Mm,
is so difficult when it's something you want so deeply.
it is. And just to add on that too, I think, being into manifestation, and I've lived these principles really my whole life. I think I learned at a young age, the more we push harder, it's like the more we're actually pushing something away.
Mm.
So it's like I wanted to step into this with more ease and not so much forcing or controlling. And it just like made this whole ride more enjoyable. I knew there were things in front of me that I had to do, the shots, go to my daily appointments and the regular blood draws and the ultrasounds up your hoo-ha. I mean, it's just like so like medical, so medical. And it's like, okay, I chose, and this is what I encourage others who are on this path, like choose a more soulful approach. Like, how can you stay connected to yourself through this? Finding soulful practices. This is what I guide clients through. And, this is where the missing pieces, I think. So, yeah, it's like, yeah, what can you control and how can we soften through this ride a bit more? Because it's so hard. It's so, like I say, it's so like this masculine energy of the doing. It's a
Mhm.
doing, doing, doing. You're doing shots, like I said, you're doing all these things. And that's not really putting your body in a more receptive state. So, and I have an occupational therapy background of over 20 years. I really understood these principles of the nervous system and self-regulation and the sensory input. And it's like, how can we soften and create more space within? That's key.
Mhm. I love that so much. Where you said you were a bit naive, and I
Mm.
am too, I don't understand this world much. Can you
Yeah.
share, like, what is the process? Like, because it is a
Mm.
long, extensive process, isn't it? Like, what is like the flow of
Oh
the
boy,
masculine
it
energy?
varies. You ask, yeah. I mean, there's so many people that have different timelines, and I mean, I've had clients have tried for years, years and years, and many rounds. We had like a year of the waiting, and a couple egg retrievals. But so when you start, you take different, you're doing shots to stimulate your follicles to grow. So I went to a concert a few days before an egg retrieval. I don't know. See, this is where I was just like living my life. I wasn't like focused on all that was really happening. But I mean, so your follicles are growing. I was ready to hatch. That was the phrase. I was ready to hatch.
I like that.
Yeah. And so like your follicles grow, they put you under and you do an egg retrieval, and they're like literally going, you're out for this. And they go in and through your vagina, and they like are sucking out the follicles, like they're popping the follicles, like little things where they're like, and they suck the little eggs through. So, um, you're asking me about a timeline. I mean, it's so, oh gosh, I should know that, but it's like, it could be a few months. I mean, before you do a frozen transfer, or if you do a fresh transfer, you get the eggs, they stimulate, fertilize it with the sperm. You could be taking the hormones, getting your body prepped and ready, and then like boom, have a fresh transfer. But I think more of, and I've had talks with my doctor on this on my podcast too, but it's like, the conventional frozen embryo transfer is like a typical way to go, where the embryo is frozen, then they thaw it. And so you're taking these hormones and shots for a few weeks. You do the egg retrieval, and you're like, they call it stimming, the stim phase. And then they, once they have, you can do genetic testing, or you don't have to. A lot of people opt not to do genetic testing of the embryos. And I recommend it. Just, I mean, I was older. And so as you get older, there's greater chance of maybe some genetic abnormalities, different kinds of things. So we wanted to try to get a healthy embryo. But yeah, I feel like IVF, when it was originally created, and I got to interview the first baby born in the US through IVF, who's amazing. And her mom had done this because of tubal damage, and she can have tubes. And so like now it is used for so many more reasons, than it was 41 years ago. But like for those who are wanting to preserve their fertility through cancer treatment, so to preserve your eggs, or your sperm, like it's used for that. Or if you're in a same-sex relationship, using assisted reproductive technology, this is, one form of it, IVF. And then genetic screening to reduce the chance of carrying genetic, um, you know, diseases, carrying those over, like cystic fibrosis and things like that. So it's just used for so many more reasons. And, if someone doesn't have tubes, um, fallopian tubes, or there's damage, like it's used for that. So there's just so many more reasons, why people need it. And I'm grateful for this technology. So,
Okay,
yeah.
and where do they keep the frozen embryo? Like, where
So,
is it?
yeah, it's in a lab. Each clinic, well, not every clinic has a lab, but you really want a good lab. And finding a lab that I actually did a tour of the lab that I went to at my clinic here in Colorado. And there are these huge, so each clinic is a little bit different, but there's like for this clinic that I went to, they have this huge tank. Like it houses all of them. It houses for all their clients in this one huge, huge, huge tank. And it's all done robotically. So I think forget how many you can maybe store 6 or something embryos in this one tube. We only had our one. And even when I think about that, it's like mind blowing to me because you trust these people with your little potentials. And like for this one little dot, I mean, just imagine, okay, so an embryo is the size of like a period at the end of a sentence. That is how big an embryo is.
Wow.
A little dot. And actually, my husband nicknamed our daughter Dot.
Oh.
And for a long time, she was the dot in the freezer. We joked about it, but it was like she was frozen for like a year, you know? And so Dot is, we have her Dot day. So every day she has her the anniversary date of our transfer. We call it her Dot day. It's really sweet. But yeah, so these tanks, they're just these big tanks. And don't ask me like, again, like all of the names of what they're stored in, but this pressurized system of like chemicals that they can monitor. I mean, it's in detail, like to take care of these little ones. And so then, when they pull them out and you put them in these petri dishes and they can watch them and you just want like extra, extra good care. I never got to like see ours except for a picture, like on our transfer day and things like that. But it's they're tiny.
That's wild. And like the
Yeah.
science now, and for you to say it's only been 41 years since we've been able to do this is also wild. Like this is
Yeah.
new technology. Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is
A little bit
it's just
longer for when IVF started because that was the first US IVF baby. And I think it's about 47 years maybe it's been around. I'm 47 and I think Louise Hay was the first first IVF baby and then Elizabeth Carr was the first US IVF baby. So it's around 47 years. Yeah, relatively young,
that
you
is
know.
so young. Like that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
wild. And
Yeah.
it's changed so many people's lives, yourself included. And I
Yeah.
know many, many stories of mothers who this is how they were able to conceive. And it's just
Mm,
so beautiful that it's finally available for women to be able to again make the choice on having
hmm.
something and
Yeah.
having, this journey of becoming a mother if this is the only way that they can do it too. Like I just think it's so
Yeah.
cool that this has come to life that someone created this.
And it doesn't always work out. I want to keep it really real, you know. There's times where you pivot and you try something else and there's egg donor, there's embryo donor, there's sperm donor, there's of course adoption and surrogacy and this is one path to parenthood
Hmm.
and it is the path that I know and this is what I strive to be a voice in.
And can you
Mm.
share a little bit too on like the darkness of this? We know that there's a lot of grief that can come with this journey as well. Like, what
Mhm.
advice would you give to the woman who's going through this, who maybe is listening to this episode right now and is like, I want this, but I just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know if this is ever going to happen for me. What would you tell them today?
Well, even just with that mindset, like what you're sharing, I don't know, like sitting with yourself and getting quiet and asking yourself some really, poignant questions of what is the story I'm telling myself going through this? That's one of the first things to look at is the narrative that you're telling yourself. Um, yes, this path is full of the unknowns, and we can live in the doubt and the fear, or we can choose to live in more of what's possible, choosing to adopt a mindset, and I call it a miracle mindset. That's what I kind of encourage others to step into living life more fully, finding the joy, not just through your fertility path, but just in life in general. Like oftentimes with the darkness, like IVF in particular, like I said, if we let it, it will suck the life out of you. And so that's no kind of place to call in a child, to call in a baby, to step into receiving an embryo, because that is what we're literally doing on a transfer days. We're receiving this embryo into our womb. And I believe in tuning into the energetics. What is within our control? What is the mindset? What are the stories that you're telling yourself? What can we let go of that may be in our womb space that's taking up space. Um, this requires like a real deep dive, within, or talking to someone like myself who can like help guide you through some of this to uncover where maybe am I not in alignment? Where maybe am I like holding on, creating more tension within? So the darkness, I mean, I believe it has a purpose. Like, we don't want to avoid all these hard feelings because it's just like such an overwhelming process where it's like I said, such a busy doing kind of energy. And a lot of people put their life on hold. They don't maybe do the vacation because what if I'm pregnant, or what if I'm going through a stim phase and I'm going through treatment, or what if? So there's a lot of the what ifs and the focus of what if it all goes wrong. But I like to invite others to shift into a mindset of what if it goes right, and what if it goes better than you can imagine. And my mantra going through IVF, which I shared with you, is always expect something wonderful to happen. And it's like, that's the kind of energy we want to bring to this. How do we step in more fully trusting, more fully open? You and I have this like lens we talked about in my episode. It's like this unique lens that we want to wear, and then we choose to wear, of like optimistic and joy. And we have this one shot at life. And it's like, this is my only shot at motherhood too, as far as going through IVF. We had one embryo, and I can't also have any more children. Um, we had some complications post birth. And so I'm just incredibly grateful. And I didn't know maybe if I was going to have another chance to do this. We only had our one embryo. And it's just like, how can we step into celebrating a bit more along the way? Can we celebrate each milestone that we're going through? Make it kind of like a fun adventure, and ride with the lows and ride with the highs. I had times where, yeah, I cried my eyes out finding the 4 embryos that weren't healthy. Like, oh my gosh, it's like devastating. It's devastating. Um, and make space for those feelings and allow the pity party. And I found journaling to be really helpful for me. So I'm a big journaler, and I would write out my pain, write out things and like let it go, and then pick yourself up again and find your people and find your community that's there to uplift you, you know?
Yeah. I told you this the other day too, but my glitter goggles, so I get it.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when it's really like difficult and dark things like this, like I
Mhm.
don't want to be naive, or I don't want to be the person who just only has the
Yeah.
optimistic look on it. So I like that you've seen both, but I also love that you lean into that joy, because that does come natural to me. And also I know to you, and it
Mhm.
isn't for everyone. I see you if that's you, but
Yeah.
I know this journey, it was really difficult for you. And
Mhm.
to hear you living life and focusing on the joy and focusing on the beauty, because you're right, it could consume you. And I
Mhm.
just love your approach to it.
Thank
It's
you.
so, so, so beautiful. Is there anything that you would suggest to women who want to get started on this journey? Like, if there's anything that they should ask their doctor about? And again, I know things are different here in Canada than they are in the States. We do have people from all over North America listening to this, but like, what would be like if they were like, okay, I want to get started on this journey, what are some questions that I would ask, or what are some things that I should start with?
Yeah, it can't hurt to get early testing. This is one thing that's just not talked about enough. So, I mean, depending on your age, and even in your 20s, like, I don't know, did your mom have a hard time getting pregnant? Like, maybe ask like what your kind of family history is and genetics. Are your periods painful? Like, going in detail. And I have friends that that's kind of their specialty, but like really understanding your cycle. Do you have a regular cycle? Are your periods like really painful? Endometriosis can be like undetected for years. And so like just all those painful periods are just not normal. And those can later like affect, our fertility. And so, not to scare anybody, I just think like the more empowered we are in knowing our body and like being open with your doctor. I actually didn't have an OB for years. I don't know if how it is there, but I was always going to my primary physician for everything. And so when I graduated from my fertility clinic, I'm like, I would think that was my first like OB appointment. I'm like, I don't know what kind of care you have there, but really having these open conversations, like, especially like if in your early 30s and you're thinking about starting a family, like just some basic testing, like I said, the AMH, FSH, um, those can be just simple tests that you could have done, even for your partner, like sperm quality, looking at that, that's often like not looked at. So
Mhm.
the more empowered you can be and just understanding some of your basic numbers will support you. I've had many people tell me, I wish someone had told me earlier about freezing my eggs. So if you are maybe like don't have a partner or you do want to be a mom one day and you're focused on your career, if I was in, so I, like I said, I met my husband at 35, but again, I was kind of naive. I think if I was in my early 30s, I would maybe start looking at potentially freezing your eggs. It's kind of like an insurance policy. And
Mm.
there's even like egg freezing parties now and all kinds of like crazy stuff. But I think it's empowering. It is. It's empowering. And we don't have forever with our fertility as women. I mean, they talk about significant decline after 35, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I didn't succumb to that. Again, the numbers and had my daughter at 40. And so it's just like, it's a mindset. It's what are you going to focus on? What are you going to believe? But, know your numbers. It's key. So get some early testing, talk with your OB, talk with your doctor. Um, just get some basic labs that could save a lot of heartbreak like down the
Mhm.
road. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I don't totally know the process here either. Again, our healthcare is very different than yours. And so sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of one of those like take what you can get up here. So
And also
we'll
with like coverage too. Sorry to interrupt you. I was just thinking about
yeah.
like, I can't remember what in Canada, what it's like there with fertility coverage, but in the States, we're like, it's less than 20 states have fertility coverage here in the
I
United
think it's
States.
all
And
out of
so
pocket
it's
here.
state to state. Is it? Okay.
I think
Wow.
again, somebody who's
And
listening
there's
to this
some,
who's Canadian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is all out of pocket.
hmm So these treatments are really expensive. And
Mhm.
you could look into your work, your employers, and see if there's any fertility coverage. I was lucky we did have some through my husband. Sometimes they cover medication. Sometimes, there's certain companies that more and more are providing fertility benefits because it's becoming more of an issue, you know,
Mhm.
and they want to attract and draw and keep their best clients. So that is a perk now that more companies are becoming informed on this important
And
issue.
also beautiful that they're like supporting families in starting a family. Like, whereas
Hmm
back in the day, you were a burden if you were a woman who wanted a baby, right? It's nice that it's
mm
finally starting to change and go into a direction of being more supportive and more loving in the workspace. So
mm Yeah.
I'm on
Yeah.
board. I'm on board. I love it. So let's chat a little bit about your book,
Oh, well,
Hold On
thanks.
Baby, and also your podcast and your business and all of the things. Like when you got started on this journey of entrepreneurship, again, I
hmm
think you mentioned 2 years after you had baby, you released this book, which is wild. Like, what have you
Yeah.
learned along the way? How are you feeling? Tell us about,
Mm,
yeah, it all.
so much. Yeah. I'd always been journaling through our whole journey through, trying to conceive. And so having been writing since I was 10 years old and books upon books upon books, and I met a woman, it's like you always just, I don't know, like being open to the signs. And I met a woman, got connected, who was shifting out of the fertility space herself and was helping budding authors. And I was her second author to work one-on-one with her. And so creating this book, I mean, I'm so proud of it. What a journey. I mean, that was a 9-week writing process, believe it or not. I wrote my first draft within 9 weeks.
That's
And
so
it was,
fast.
I really, so believe it or not, so it's a 9-week writing program. It went through multiple edits after that, but to get my thoughts out, and actually, believe it or not, the first 3 weeks were just getting in the zone, getting in the writing, getting in the zone where I was like, okay, my intention, who's this for? What's my message I want to convey, the theme throughout the whole book, all of it. And the message is really hold on to you first. It's hold on,
Mhm.
baby. Yeah, we were holding on for everyone, but it's like, most importantly, it's holding on to you first. And so staying connected to yourself. And I mean, yes, went through multiple edits. That was in 2019, released it not knowing we were going to be in a pandemic. But even that theme of hold on, baby, it's like, hold on. Like, and it's so funny how I felt like COVID was so much like IVF, like the waiting, the unknown. We're not going to put our life on hold. We're going to keep living in joy. We're going to, yes, it's overwhelming and the anxiety and all these fears creep in, but it's like, it was very parallel. So very timely that book came out. when it did in 2020. And then um, started the podcast. Yeah. And last year I did a podcast program, and Soulful IVF is my podcast. And I wanted to show the other side of fertility, that's not really talked about. I mean, I do include some of the science and the clinical conversations, but it's also very much personal stories and the holistic supports and tools and practices that I practice and that I want to share with others who are embarking on this path and really giving hope. So, I mean, between the book and the podcast, they're just unexpected blessings that I truly never thought I would be working in this space, but sometimes the calling just chooses you. So I think you and I've talked about that too, where it's like we pivoted and we kind of think, oh, we're going to work in this one area. Well, it's all been a part of the ride. Like they're all interconnected. And so being an occupational therapist really did support me going through all of this, and um, taking an empowered approach through it all. So yeah, I keep creating. I'm just like, this is what's so fun. I mean, the book, the podcast, working on my course. And this January, earlier this year, I created the Moon Magic and Manifestation group. So for those who are wanting to connect in an intimate space, we do monthly calls, and I have guest experts. And it's really just this really soulful time together where we get to share, connect, and learn from others. I just had on my friend who's a fertility yoga instructor. We've done all kinds of great things. So I welcome whoever wants to be a part of that to message me and join that. And yeah, just let you know that you're not alone. We learn from each other. Walking this path can be extremely isolating and lonely. And so hopefully my book is a companion for you on your path. And then the book or the podcast too, I just received the nicest message from a woman recently, and she talked about saying that getting her in the headspace, the book, the podcast, and I shared a hypnosis with her too. I share my friend's fertility hypnotherapy program that I include in my packages. She said all of that helped put me in the headspace, which she believes is what helped her get through. Like she's halfway through her pregnancy, and just that her body responded so well through all of that. So this is like what it's about. Like, how can we create this like calm, nurturing space of ease on our path to motherhood? So that's what I strive to do.
I'm just in awe. I just sit over here and
Mm.
I'm just like
Oh,
so absolutely
oh,
magical. And it's no surprise that you are creating magical things and supporting so many women and doing all these things because you are that, like you embody that. And
oh,
I just think it's so beautiful to watch. And just in a such a place of that can be dark, you are bringing light to it and helping women to feel less alone, helping women to feel connected and to see themselves as like the gift that they are. I think is just so
mm.
fun. So fun to
Thank
watch
you so
you.
much. Thank you.
If you could share one piece of advice with the women listening, what would it be?
Mm. There's so much I want to say. Don't let your light dim on this path,
Mm,
because you have a big life and you are more powerful than you realize. These fertility challenges, they might try and take over, but just remember you have that light within you. You will get through this dark time, and know that you're not alone and that there's people who are there to offer support. And so I encourage those to be open, to stay open, to keep living your life fully and embrace what's to come, keeping hope alive. And if motherhood is on your heart, like it's meant for you. And it's something that I would encourage you to hold close to you. And as I look down on my desk here, they're talking like I have this like crystal heart.
mm,
And this little heart was given to me by a dear family member who, was supporting me out through IVF, and just have a symbol to ground you, to hold on to. And it can be something small and just tangible, just something that connects you back to that why, your why. And this thing has been with me through everything, through all the surgeries, through so much. And so there's a chapter I have in my book on that, about seek your symbol, but be open to how it might appear. And that's key. That's really like where the magic can come your way when you stay open.
Mm. I love that. I love that.
Mm.
Where can our listeners connect with you online? Where can they find your
Yeah.
podcast? All the things.
My website is ivfmanifestingamiracle.com and the same name for Instagram, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube channel, Lisa White, IVF Manifesting a Miracle. My podcast, Soulful IVF, is on iTunes, Spotify. What else? Book Hold On Baby is on Amazon. So thank you, Jess.
Of course, of course. I just love having you here. I do have a couple of questions that I ask every guest that comes on the
Okay.
podcast. You ready?
Okay. Am I? What are you
Okay, are
asking?
you? What is your favorite compliment to receive?
Ooh. The energy that they feel when they're around me,
Mm,
the
hmm.
energy that I bring. I forget how someone said it, but it was like something that like just just the approachability or the warmth that I exude. That was really sweet.
Oh, that is so nice. You do.
Mhm.
You're a warm hug. You are
Thank
a warm
you.
hug.
Thank you.
And what is your favorite thing to do to boost your mood when you're feeling grumpy?
Oh, okay. When I'm feeling grumpy. How much time do you have now? I would say crank up some tunes, put on
Mm.
music, and dance it out, move your body. But music, I mean, when I'm in the car, like a good blast of the radio or, some music always does the trick.
Oh yeah, I'm the same. It's like you have to have these right songs to if you're going to an event, which I am today. I'm like,
Yes.
I need the right songs that get me pumped up to get there so that I'm like in the mood. So I feel you on that one. And do you have a song or a quote that boosts your confidence?
A song or a quote. Oh, there's so much. Like the Coldplay song, Sky Full of Stars,
Love that one.
that one. I think Trust Fall by Pink always gets me going. I mean, there's a lot of music that I could think of, but a quote as I look around my room, like if I have this I see on a regular basis, and this might be a message for somebody listening, but it's in the end, these things matter most. How well did you love? How fully did you live? How deeply did you learn to let go?
Mm,
So
so
kind of
good.
a way of living in life that I strive to live fully and let go, enjoy the ride, right?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for being
Thank
here, for spending
you.
some time with us today,
Thanks for
sharing
having
all
me.
about
It's an
your truth and
honor.
being so vulnerable with us. Like that's
Mm,
what we need more of. So thank you for being
Thanks,
you.
Jess. Love you, girl.
I love you. What's up, sis? I am so glad we could hang out today. If you love this episode, send it to a friend or share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me sprinkle some confidence in the world. And don't forget, you are magic. Let's show the world your shine.